Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. The Monroe County Waste Reduction District Board met on February 8th. Board member Isabel Piedmont Smith asked for an update from Controller Catherine Martin about a transfer of funds that occurred to pay back an unexpected amount due on the closure bond debt account.
There was an unexpected amount due. I think it was $150,000. And so we had to borrow from our operating funds to cover that payment. Could you give us an update on that, please, Ms. Martin?
The money was transferred, so it's, it was put into from the operating account into the bond debt account, and then we're doing an additional appropriation for those funds. Specifically, is there any?
Okay, so I had conferred with Councilor McKim before the meeting that on the County Council agenda for this coming Tuesday, there is the transfer of funds, approving that interfund transfer.
Correct.
And that was $18,000 approximately?
Roughly.
Okay. So I just wanted to, state that for the public, that interfund transfer is going for retroactive approval to County Council on Tuesday. And then later in the year, when we have to make another bond payment, we'll have to request an additional appropriation. Is that correct?
No, I don't think we will have to do another appropriation.
Executive Director for the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District, Tom McGlasson Jr., clarified that the county will not need an additional appropriation on this.
We actually, we will not need to seek an additional appropriation. What we're going for on the 13th to the County Council is just approval of a fund-to-fund transfer of those funds. The shortfall is due to the tax disbursement in December being less than what was anticipated, but the budgeted expenditures for 2024 are accurate, and we just need the money in the bank. We will not need an additional appropriation to make the payments due in 2024.
During department reports, Waste Reduction Specialist Kayla Strand provided a report on behalf of the Administration Department.
No bills at this time that are specifically referencing the Waste Reduction District. It's all general. We have, right now we're working with Circular Indiana for an event that will occur sometime in early May. We're still working out the details for that, and they'll give us more details as we work. We're figuring that out with them. Mr. McGlasson and I are scheduled to do an assessment of a green business to help further our program with the Illinois Green Business Program. We're doing a shadow walk with them next week. And then we are continuing to do additional advertisement that is specific to the rebranding. And I am happy to try and address any questions.
Finally, Environmental Compliance Director Lee Paulson provided an update on the November groundwater testing, which he said has remained consistent compared to previous months.
The highlight I try to tell you guys about is that we finally got all the statistics back from the November groundwater from AECOM. I submitted that a couple days ago officially. So that's all done. There was nothing that was out of line from previous sampling events. We had no new detections. Everything was within our winter normal. So it was pretty uneventful, which is a good thing. So obviously everybody kind of is aware of the rain and stuff like that after we had that bad frost. So getting the treatment plan up and going. We've had a couple technical things with a float was bad. So we've had a couple things that have kind of slowed us down getting going, but we're fully operational now, and everything is going the way it needs to be going for January, early February. Even though it seems warm outside temperature-wise, that water is still very cold, which hinders the treatment process, and the bugs aren't as effective to clean the water the way that they're supposed to. So we're not doing crazy amounts, but we're operating. I think as of today, we're over 4 cycles a day, which is pretty good, pretty good for this time of year. So we've been hauling a little bit, but not very much, but trying to make sure that we stay ahead of it in case we do get a rain event that gets kind of rough. So we had a fair amount of Adopt-A-Road cleanups and a couple community members doing some stuff in between the cold sprint and January. So we're happy to see that.
The Waste Reduction District Board of Directors will meet again for its regular session on March 14th. At the February 7th meeting of the Monroe County Commissioners, the Commissioners rejected a motion for the rezoning of Worms Way property from Agriculture Rural Reserve to pre-existing business. The property owner, Martin Height, requested the property be rezoned to allow future businesses to buy and use the land.
In 1997, there's about a dozen properties that were rezoned to pre-existing business within 3 miles of Worms Way, north and south of it. Some of those properties have been sold since then. Pointer Sheet Metals is now Farrell Fisher. What I think was called the Lighthouse before is rezoned or is now occupied by Wells Landscaping. And so all I'm asking for is to be treated the same as these pre-existing business owners. There's no reason that my property was not rezoned pre-existing business. It clearly was there in 1997, and yet nothing was done at that time. Some of the properties, and on that page 63, I was going to point out, there's actually properties that are zoned pre-existing business that are vacant land. The one property which is south of the gas station, not shown on that picture, but there's a 30-acre parcel, 7326 Wayport Road. It's vacant, never had a business on it. It's zoned pre-existing business. There is a parcel at 6427 North Charlie Taylor Lane, 1.06 acres down near Thompson Furniture. Same thing. It's zoned pre-existing business, yet it's never had a business on it. Is vacant property. You know, my property has a site plan and has 60,000 square foot of commercial building located on it. And it doesn't make any sense.
In response to Height's comments, many members of Windsor Private, a neighborhood adjacent to the Worms Way property, expressed their disapproval of rezoning. Local real estate agent Julie Booz, a resident of Windsor Private, has shown the property twice for Height. Both times the sale failed due to Height advertising the property improperly.
Mr. Hyatt has never had a real estate agent try to sell the property. He's advertised it as industrial property, which it never has been. So that's the people who come to him to try to buy it. So over the years, he has not had any offers on it. And it has to do with the way that he's advertising it. You can't advertise it for something that it's not and expect someone to come in and pay the amount of money that he has for it. He needs to price his property for what it is and what it's zoned, and he would have sold it years ago. I would have liked to have sold it. I would have loved to have helped him sell that property. The other thing is to say that, you know, Windsor Private doesn't want anybody there. Well, that's not true. We have supported it. I know I supported his company. I bought all my mulch and plants from there. I think everybody in the neighborhood did. We had, you know, worked out a deal with him. We helped him get his zoning. We helped provide people to come and do his service so that he could grow his business, and he did. He grew it well, and we were all supportive of that, and we always have been. But this is our neighborhood, and high intensity is, I mean, that is not what we want, because what he wants to do is go right back to his advertising, which as it's circled, industrial. He wants to sell it as an industrial property because he can get more money for it. And that is the bottom line.
Commissioner Julie Thomas responded, saying that the residents of Windsor Private bought their properties with a neighboring garden supply store, and that rezoning that land to allow industrial business would impede on the residents.
I think there's a real concern about having a business inserted here which is not compatible with the existing neighborhood. And I always focus on the people who live in the area first when a rezone petition comes before us, because it is their livelihood, their way of life that will be impacted the most. And for that reason, I'm going to vote no on this petition.
All three commissioners voted no on the motion to rezone Worms Way property after hearing over an hour of debate, nearly half of which was public comment in opposition to the rezoning. The Monroe County Commissioners will meet again on February 14th. On February 7th at the Bloomington City Council meeting, Councilmember Shruti Rana shared why she ran for the position.
I initially ran for this position because I was just really concerned about my daughter's future, but just all of the children in our city and what was happening in our state, and just worried about rights being taken away and thinking about what are the opportunities where we can build a better future at the local level. So over the last year and a half, I thought I was active in the community, but over the last year and a half, I've gotten to know so many more of you. And basically, I think my life has been going to about 2 to 3 community or organization meetings every week for the last year and a half. And I've gotten to know so many of you and really see how we have neighbors working together to identify problems and work on solutions. And I think we're lucky to have an incredibly vibrant community that is able to do that.
Next, Capital Improvement Board member Doug Bruce gave an update on the Convention Center expansion project. Bruce shared information on the Convention Center's current usage and why its expansion is necessary.
I thought I'd share with you some of what they presented to us, because again, we want to see the need for this convention center, and we need to see the data behind it. And again, we all know 2020 and the pandemic slowed a lot of things, and some of us were very curious on where we are now. So with that, I'll give you a few points of interest here. The current convention space works best for conferences of 200 or less attendees. 70% of the business is civic, typically booking 1 year in advance. The conferences that we do get tend to utilize the entire facility. Let's see, Sunday through Thursday economic generators, approximately 30% include overnight stays. The booking window for some of these larger events are 1 to 3 years out, and that's key because we're kind of under the gun here to get some things moving with this, because we can't book anything, we can't talk to anybody about anything, and that's going to be the big economic generator for this. Bloomington is the second most desirable destination in the state, but we have the smallest full-service center. Let's talk about Monroe County Convention Center lost business. In 2010 through 2017, 303 events lost. 64% of those were due to dates not being available and size limitations. Again, the dates aren't available because we're small, and so we don't have a lot of room to book multi-groups at the same time. In 2022 to 2023, 137 events lost, 95% were due to dates being available. Again, this is showing that the convention business is picking back up. 5% of those were due to size limitations. Since the year 2000, Visit Bloomington has submitted more than 600 proposals to host groups in Monroe County, and more than 100 of them chose other locations due to lack of meeting space and/or hotel room and space availability. The expansion estimated economic impact: the average business traveler spends $214 a day, which they say here is conservative. So 40,000 new annual visitors a day at 8.5 million. Economic estimated impact is $13 to $18 million annually.
Councilmember Matt Flaherty asked if the board had any idea yet if they would need more funding than the food and beverage tax revenue, or if that would be sufficient. Bruce responded that at this time, they think the revenue from the food and beverage tax will be sustainable.
I was curious if at this point you have any idea about whether the CIB would recommend or be requesting additional capital investment outside what the food and beverage tax can support, or if it's really too early to say about anything like that.
Well, I'll tell you this. We haven't had a thorough discussion on that, but our directive, and I'm sure speaking again for the board, would be that we would not seek any other funding for this outside of the food and beverage tax. There may be an opportunity for, let's say, naming, so there may be some ways for profit to look at some namings. We either, look at the current convention center now. We have some rooms that are dedicated. Those would obviously be something that would be taken up with the county and the city before we went down that road. But I would say that the board would see we're going to put together a budget that works with the revenue from the food and beverage tax and the approximately $18 million that we have now currently, and we won't exceed that.
Councilmember Kate Rosenbarger asked where the convention center gets most of its visitors from. Bruce responded that the majority are from Indiana.
When we talk about coming to Bloomington for the use of the convention center, where do we say they're coming from?
I'm trying to where do we say the guests are coming from?
Yeah, like are they all driving? Is it regional? Is it sort of like from Indiana? Is it the Midwest? Are people flying in? I mean, who are they?
So that's one of the bullet points I didn't bring up, but we average 460 events a year. 80% of the events are repeat events. 20% are new, of course. 90% of the groups originate in Indiana.
Councilmember Isak Asari asked if the board had discussed how the convention center is used when there are no ongoing conventions.
Has there been much discussion as of yet about how this space is used when it's not being used for large, small, and medium-sized conferences?
Maybe, again, in 4 meetings, we've tried to get a lot done. And so we haven't really gotten to those phases, but I would say that we've had some comments from the public that we've duly noted. One person mentioned just making sure that the design of the building connects people at the street level. And of course, that's, I've been a downtown business person and involved in downtown, and my parents owned a business, so that's a priority for me too. But we've had one discussion that, what would happen if a pandemic happens again, and do we need to think about other uses that could happen if we needed it? And of course, these are just questions that came from the public that we've kept, recorded. And as we get to that phase where we're actually, we have an architect under contract where we're starting the design discussions again, those will come up. But you can be rest assured those kind of uses, those kind of thoughts will be addressed.
Councilmember Dave Rollo also asked about the other uses of the center and noted that when it was created, it was intended to also be used as a civic center. Bruce responded that the board had not yet discussed that.
When we were presented this, it was a convention center, civic center. So the proposition was that the space would be available for the public, hopefully at a discount, to use for events here. Has this been part of your discussion, or will it be?
I've just noted it, so it will be, but I can't. Again, we haven't gone that far in depth yet. We're much like I would imagine you as a new city council, just getting up to speed. We are, trying to get up to speed and make sure that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed.
The next Bloomington City Council meeting will be held on February 14th. The Monroe County Personnel Administration Committee met on February 6th. For the start of the new year, Council member Jennifer Crossley was nominated for the chair position. She accepted the nomination and it passed unanimously. Health Department Administrator Lori Kelly shared that they received feedback from WIS on their job description edits.
We would like to not move forward with the updated job description edits based upon the feedback provided from WIS, and we are looking for some direction on the next path forward.
Council member Jeff McKim asked what the Health Department's goal is with the job description changes. Kelly responded,
Well, I do feel very strongly about the Vital Records Division. I do feel based upon the duties, particularly the increased duties with opting into Health First Indiana, that those should be classified as a PAT level. In addition, the registrar plays a vital role, and my consensus is that the position should really be classified as a manager. If you compare that job description to, for example, the Population Health and Outreach Manager, many of those duties are very similar.
Council member Marty Hawk responded that WIS does not look at the amount of work, but they look for an increase in responsibilities.
When WIS looks at something, they look at the response. It's not like the amount of work, right? Because they just say, just hire more. You know, don't be paying overtime. Don't be doing, hire more people. That's how it's classified. And to get it changed, and if you believe there's a need for a change for that classification, it really is going to have to be, they are responsible for decision making or something of the sort. And you'll be able to review that. And believe me, I feel your pain. I've been through this with another department licensed for 6 months. I don't want you guys to have to go through that. And so I'm open to suggestions.
McKim agreed with Hawk, saying that just because staff members have more work to do, it does not mean that they are doing more skilled labor necessarily.
I pretty much agree with everything that Marty said on this. You know, that the classification of positions really is more about qualifications and independent scope of judgment and expertise rather than just amount of work. Just simply increasing the volume doesn't by itself increase a classification. Now, it does lend itself to an argument for more hours. If you're on 35 hours and you can't get the work done because you've got more work, then that makes an easier argument for going to 40 hours. So that's, and then also for additional positions to take some of the workload off. So, you know, if the organization of your department, if a chief deputy, you know, elected officials have statutory chief deputies that kind of take some of the load off of the elected official. Other department heads don't have a statutory right to that, but you know, that may be an organizational form you wanna consider that would take some of the work off some of the other positions. That's kind of, but you know, with the county compensation system, COMET in Health Department is the same as a COMET in Parks Department, is the same as a COMET in assessment. We don't, the assessor's office, we don't think, well, we really need to pay the Health Department COMETs more because they do a higher volume of work. That's just not the way the system, I mean, there are other systems we could possibly adopt, but that's not the one we have. And it would require a radical restructuring of the entire county compensation system.
Kelly pointed out that even if they do create new positions, they do not have enough office space to accommodate the positions.
I think that one key point that is important to remember and discuss when we are talking about new positions is that I don't have room. I don't even have room for the 2 new positions that I have.
Yeah, we're going to have a physical space issue.
So I can't even fill those positions because I don't have anywhere to put people. So kind of creating more additional positions is not going to help me because I don't have anywhere to put them. And there is a thought of too many cooks in the kitchen, so to say, in some areas too, that then you have so many people kind of working on some of those. I mean, how do you divide up some of those things? And if I don't have anywhere to keep divisions working together, then that also causes, fragmented workflows. I'm really stuck right now with what I'm even going to do with these 2 new positions that I actually need. I need people filling those services, and I don't have a physical location for them.
Crossley suggested that as a temporary solution, they should increase the hours to 40 hours per week and continue to collaborate to figure out more long-term solutions.
I know it's not ideal of what you are wanting to have, but if there is a way to do something now where we can get those hours increased from 35 to 40, I would say we could go for it, and do so as soon as possible. I know that's not like everything that is wanted, but it could help with a lot of different things. And I get the whole idea of having comp time, having a flex time, and how that can affect office, and that also affects staff, which also affects what you can do. It's a trickle down effect. I get that. I work in an office where that happens all the time. So that being said, I think this was a good conversation, and hopefully we can go back to the drawing board, and work with your board and figure out how we can look at different things. Because I think we're all in support of trying to help you. But right now, we just have to look at things as they come about, and as they come about, we can figure those out.
The committee did not reach any final decisions on the matter, but will continue to work with the Board of Health to reorganize the health department's staffing structure. The Bloomington Redevelopment Commission met on February 5th to discuss the future of the Showers West renovation project. In December, the City of Bloomington received several bids regarding the use of Showers West as the police headquarters and fire department administration, along with 2 firehouse renovations and a new fire logistics building. Mayor Carrie Thompson gathered a task force to evaluate the project and determine what the city's next steps should be.
It became very clear that we just don't have funding to do it at this time. And so rather than leaving the contractors wondering, there was no way to proceed and guarantee that we had enough money to do Showers as it was outlined.
The Bloomington Redevelopment Commission voted to reject all construction bids for the renovation project. The city plans to continue construction on Fire Station 1, designs for Fire Station 3, and find a potential new home for the fire logistics building. Current residents will be allowed to stay at Showers West, but new lease agreements are on pause.
The current conversation is to do a collaborative process with council to make sure that whatever we do with police, in the end, it is in the interest of the future of public safety, and that we really look at how we're collaborating overall with public safety as it's being defined in the 21st century.
The next Bloomington Redevelopment Commission meeting will take place on February 19th. And that is all for Cats Week. Thank you for joining us. For Cats and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.